Thank you, Professor Lipsit. Really appreciate the grounding exercise. Welcome, everybody. It's very nice to be here. I'm excited to share with you my master capstone presentation, exploring a new intersection between integrative health coaching and psychedelic-assisted interventions. This presentation focuses on psychedelic health coaching, or PHC, as a potential intervention for individuals living with depression and chronic health comorbidities. This project combines my background in integrative health coaching and ketamine-assisted therapy with emerging psychedelic science. The title of my proposal is proposing a randomized clinical trial of psilocybin-assisted integrative health coaching for lifestyle behavior change. The scale of the problem it addresses is quite staggering. Chronic diseases like obesity, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes are primarily driven by preventable lifestyle behaviors. Meanwhile, depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide and deeply intertwined with these same conditions. Depression not only worsens chronic illness, it undermines motivation and behavior change. This combination creates a cycle of suffering and system-wide cost that public health interventions have failed to interrupt, and traditional interventions have failed to reverse. Worse, our systems often treat mental and physical health separately, even though depression undermines motivation, impairs cognitive control, and directly worsens chronic disease outcomes. We need new integrated solutions, approaches that can catalyze not just mental health recovery, but lasting lifestyle behavior change. This study aims to evaluate whether combining the psychedelic psilocybin with health coaching leads to measurable improvements in lifestyle behaviors and mental health for people with depression and comorbid conditions. These are individuals who often fall between the cracks of mental health and medical care, people who are not reaching lasting change through traditional approaches. Specifically, this research proposes comparing psychedelic health coaching to coaching alone, testing whether the synergistic effects of psilocybin in coaching can result in better outcomes. PHC integrates structured coaching with a transformational window opened by psychedelics like psilocybin. Health coaching is client-centered and based on theories like self-determination and the stages of change model. And psychedelics open a neuroplastic window that can heighten motivation, insight, and connection. So PHC leverages this window to help clients take meaningful action. Dr. Mark Drusicki, an integrative physician and nationally board-certified health and wellness coach working with psychedelics, argues that coaches are uniquely trained to reflect, hold space, and support this type of embodied learning. There's mounting evidence that psychedelics catalyze real-world behavior change. For example, in a landmark Johns Hopkins study, participants in psilocybin-assisted smoking cessation trials not only quit smoking, but they also reported increases in pro-social behaviors and time spent in nature and creative expression. Another Johns Hopkins study on terminally ill cancer patients showed that 100% of the participants experienced lasting lifestyle improvements 4.5 years after their experience. These are profound, durable outcomes not commonly seen in mental health or wellness programs. Depression and chronic illness create a vicious cycle that compounds suffering. Chronic diseases like diabetes and heart disease can increase the risk of developing depression, while depression itself worsens outcomes for these conditions, leading to poor treatment adherence, faster disease progression, and higher mortality rates. Research shows that depression impairs cognitive control and motivation, two key factors necessary for sustaining healthy lifestyle behaviors, like changing your diet or increasing exercise or cutting problematic substance use. This makes behavior change even harder for people struggling with both mental and physical illness. Yet our healthcare systems treat mental and physical health in silos. Patients are left navigating fragmented care pathways where their depression might be addressed separately from their lifestyle-related conditions. if it's addressed at all. Psychedelic health coaching aims to bridge this gap, offering a more integrated, whole-person approach to behavior change. Despite the promising data from decades of studies on psychedelic-assisted therapy, most of the research to date focuses exclusively on mental health conditions like depression and PTSD and anxiety. And that's really important work, but less attention has been given to using psychedelics to promote overall health and well-being or to address chronic illness through lifestyle change. So what's missing is the application to health behaviors, which are really at the root of most chronic illness. Psychedelic health coaching aims to bridge this gap, supporting not just symptom remission, but full spectrum well-being and long-term health outcomes. PHC is not intended to replace mental health care, but it could potentially help people build healthier lives in a way that aligns with how psychedelics actually work by increasing motivation, connection, and insight. That's the sweet spot for coaching. Health coaching alone is already an evidence-based tool for promoting behavior change. Coaches leverage client autonomy. They use motivational interviewing, readiness-based interventions that help support clients changing their diet and exercise, substance use, improving their sleep. Studies have shown that coaching improves depression, weight management, diabetes management, and overall quality of life up to about a year, but not really beyond that point. PHC proposes enhancing these outcomes by using psilocybin to increase openness, motivation, and readiness for sustained behavior change. Psychedelic health coaching is built around the window of opportunity created by psychedelics like psilocybin. So first, psychedelics enhance neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections. After taking a substance like psilocybin, individuals experience a period where their default patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving are loosened. This phenomenon opens a critical window where people are more receptive to forming healthier habits. Other substances like ketamine, which is legal and we use in our integrative health clinic, have a similar effect of creating these critical windows. But with ketamine, the window is 24 to 48 hours. And substances like psilocybin, that window opens for 2 weeks, LSD 3 weeks. And so it gives you a greater opportunity to bridge that with ongoing treatment. So at the same time, psychedelics temporarily quiet the brain's default mode network, which governs self-critical thinking and rigid mental narratives. This shift often fosters psychological flexibility, the ability to adapt thoughts and behaviors to meet those long-term goals instead of reacting from habit. Health coaching is the perfect complement during this window. Coaches provide structured, supportive framework to help clients identify their values, set meaningful goals, and take small, sustainable steps toward change. Through practices like motivational interviewing, value-based goal setting, coaches help translate these insights from the psychedelic experience into action. Without that structure, post-psychedelic insights often fade. PHC helps anchor these insights into durable, life-enhancing behaviors. The development of this model was informed by the work of psychedelic and behavioral health researchers, including Dr. Garcia Rameau and Dr. Matthew Johnson at Johns Hopkins University, Dr. Robin Carhart Harris of the Imperial College of London, and Dr. Pedro Teixeira of the University of Lisbon, who have all identified key trends in health behavior change through their research on mental health issues with psychedelics. Dr. Garcia Rameau reminds us that while psychedelics catalyze insight and neuroplasticity, the behavior change itself depends heavily on structured support afterward. He notes that counseling, intention setting, and integration practices are critical components to sustaining outcomes after psychedelics. Similarly, Dr. Mark Drzewski emphasizes that coaching mirrors the psychedelic process. As he puts it, coaches foster presence, reflection, and curiosity, qualities that naturally extend the intuitive embodied learning that psychedelics ignite. Together, these insights reinforce why pairing psychedelics with coaching may be uniquely powerful. It aligns the internal opening created by psychedelics with external guided action, allowing individuals not only to have a transformational experience, but to build transformation into their life. The study proposes a 2-arm randomized controlled trial comparing PHC to health coaching alone. All participants will have diagnosed depression and at least one chronic health comorbidity. The intervention group receives 3 psilocybin sessions combined with 12 weeks of coaching. The control group receives just the coaching alone. Follow-ups at 4 weeks, 8 weeks, and then 3, 6, 12, and 18 months will measure sustained changes in things like diet, exercise, and substance use, as well as changes in self-determination and changes in mental health. We're taking a multi-dimensional approach to outcome measurement. Outcomes will be assessed using validated tools. For the lifestyle behaviors such as diet, exercise, and substance use, and increased social connection and other wellness domains, they'll be measured through the Fantastic Lifestyle Questionnaire and validated tools like the 7-day physical activity recall. Depression and anxiety will be assessed via the Patient Health Questionnaire and the Depression Anxiety Stress Scales. Motivation and self-determination will be captured through the University of Rhode Island Change Assessment and the Self-Determination Scale. Physical metrics like BMI and blood pressure will also be recorded. We will use repeated measures ANOVA or mixed effects models to assess changes in depression, lifestyle behaviors, and motivational factors across both study arms at baseline, post-intervention, and follow-up points. Covariates such as age, gender, baseline depression severity, and readiness to change will be controlled for. Where necessary, post-hoc comparisons will clarify group differences. Secondary analysis will explore potential moderators like the participant's motivation or coach engagement. And all analyses will use standard statistical software following IRB and data security protocols. Ethical design is foundational to this study. All participants are fully screened by licensed professionals with exclusion for conditions like family history of psychosis or severe substance dependence. Informed consent is emphasized, freedom to opt out, and we would adopt a trauma-informed, culturally sensitive coaching model. As Dr. Garcia-Ramon noted, ethical delivery means transparency about the risks, the limits, and what's truly known. He says that we must guard against hype and overpromising, especially in a field that is still emerging. Based on existing evidence, we anticipate that the PHC group will demonstrate greater improvements across all measured outcomes compared to coaching alone. We expect that combining psilocybin with coaching will amplify outcomes. Specifically, we expect to see greater increases in physical activity, healthier eating patterns, reductions in harmful substance use, and improvements in depression symptoms based on each participant's goals. These effects are likely to be most pronounced in the early post-treatment period, with durability dependent on integration practices and ongoing support. These results could lay the foundation for new evidence-based approaches to behavior change. While this study offers a novel framework, it's important to recognize its limitations. PHC is an emerging model that has not been validated through clinical research. As Dr. Garcia-Ramon points out, the role of psychedelics in promoting health behavior change is still hypothetical. Our initial trial also may have a limited sample size and may not fully capture the diversity of populations who could benefit. There's also the possibility of self-selection bias, with participants naturally more motivated to change. Future research should include larger, more representative samples, extend follow-up periods, and explore PHC's applicability across different chronic conditions and community settings. These steps are critical for establishing PHC as an evidence-based, scalable intervention. If successful, PHC has the potential to shift both individual health trajectories and systemic approaches to care. At the individual level, it offers a client-centered model for lasting lifestyle transformation. Systemically, it demonstrates how integrative health practices can expand psychedelic applications beyond mental illness. It suggests new pathways for public health, wellness promotion, and chronic disease prevention, aligned with the vision of healing that is holistic, accessible, and sustainable. This study centers community engagement, not just as a research method, but as a value. Health coaches can represent a diverse workforce attuned to the lived realities of their clients. That makes them essential partners in equity-driven care. PHC bridges gaps in both access and philosophy. It expands how we define healing, moving beyond top-down medical models to ones that are collaborative, culturally responsive, and client-led. Psychedelic health coaching invites us to reimagine healing, not as a clinical endpoint, but as an ongoing client-centered journey. By combining the motivational power of psilocybin with structured coaching, PHC targets both the mind and body, both insight and action. This study lays the foundation for a new evidence-based approach to lifestyle medicine, one that is rooted in personal agency, community equity, and long-term transformation. Thank you so much for your attention and engagement. I'm excited by the potential of PHC to offer a truly transformational approach to healing, one that bridges mind, body, community, and spirit. I look forward to your questions and discussion.
Thank you, Kavan. Great work. I'm inviting the committee and adjunct to pop back on video for Q&A. And actually, would folks leave their cameras off except the committee and the adjunct for the time being? Thank you all.
It appears the video is disabled by the host. That's what I'm getting when I try to put my video back on.
Okay, we'll see if Tyler can help you out with that in the background. Kavan, thank you so much for being a trailblazer, both with your choice of topic and also with kicking us off. That's much appreciated. So I'd love to hear from the committee questions you have for Kavan.
Go ahead, Ruth Ann. You've got something.
Yeah, first, I just want to say congratulations, Kavan. Wonderful work. I feel like that you've been vibrating this study since the moment you came in the door here. So thank you for that. So many questions, but I'll try to just focus. So I do have a quick question about, because this is what you were talking about in terms of your intervention is something that would require the prescription from a physician. Could you talk a little bit about what you perceive to be the role of folks in that role in this study?
Yeah, and I've kind of pioneered that in my own practice. So it would be a collaborative approach, and it does require, both mental health and clinical participation and supervision. So in my ketamine-assisted therapy clinic, it requires a physician to write the prescription, and it requires a therapist to make the diagnosis and to supervise the treatment. But the client is free to work with integrative health coaches if their goals are more behavioral. And again, with ketamine, everyone has a diagnosis of treatment-resistant depression. So that was kind of the initial model. And I've been obsessed for years at the limitations of ketamine as very short acting, and passionate about the possibility of something that's less addictive, that is safer, and that has demonstrated greater outcomes. But yes, clinical collaboration and supervision is definitely required.
Well, this is really an interdisciplinary study then,
Absolutely.
For all practical purposes. So thank you for that. And just one other quick question about the intervention. I'm wondering, do you perceive that the intervention, the coaching intervention piece of it would be pretty much the same for both the intervention and the control groups? Do you think there's any difference, or do you anticipate any difference in terms
So if we get into the manualized approach, the challenge is to both open this up to individual coaches' personal practices that they want to bring to this, but also something that is standard. My vision and kind of my own practice leans heavily into coaching techniques like guided imagery, which itself is it's a non-ordinary state of consciousness experience. And so if I could control all aspects and all practitioners, I feel like that model would then be very parallel, and you get a really good comparison, so that the control group would have a very similar coaching cadence and experience integrating those insights. And then the psilocybin would basically just explode the door to all kinds of other experiences and self-exploration.
Great. Thank you for that exciting work. Great job, Meg.
Oh, Kavan, I'm so excited to see this. I think other than a big, profound review of literature, you've got a doctoral proposal here in the works. And I'm looking at just a piece of advice on a theoretical construct to move this through. In many integrative medicine circles, the biopsychosocial model is considered a theory that would work with very well for you to integrate findings and disseminate them into an integrative health and integrative medicine field. And I think that it's, it would let you have a really precise lens as you looked at psychological factors, biological factors, and social factors, especially social. What was the set and the setting, and who were the practitioner, and who were the coaches, and what were the limitations involved in any of those. So I hope you go on to doing that. And, I'm really glad you called Mark too. I think it
was great.
Mark Dusecki, yes, dear colleague, it just really gave you a strong underpinning for moving this into alignment with coaching. Well done. Really well done. Thank you.
And I've got just one question for you, Kavan. I love this framing you have about the critical window and the way that the PHC can help to open that critical window. I'm wondering, when we think about critical windows that kind of happen naturally through the life course, whether it's developmental time periods or learning about risk of illness, how would you kind of consider not just kind of for whom, but when would those critical windows be, or stages of change? When do you think is the ripest time for folks?
Yeah, so opening critical windows has been the holy grail of science since they were discovered at the beginning part of the last century. So this, just like 3 years ago, they discovered that most psychedelics open the social reward critical learning period. And so that's an aspect of developmental learning that's usually like different parts of childhood and adolescence, in which you're highly receptive to social cues. And that's where we gain a lot of like our thinking, and that stuff tends to get locked in. And then it doesn't, typically does not open outside of that. And so the fact that psychedelics open these windows at any time later in life is really critical. To your question in particular, I could definitely see using the stages of change to really make sure, and that's part of the screening process for this, is people to qualify for the study, they have to have a certain level of motivation. So they can't be completely in the pre-contemplation phase. So we would have to assess when they are in there. And I think, in the contemplation phase, once the ball is rolling, you can open that window, because you're going to be doing 3 treatments spread out over a series of weeks. And you have a pretty good window of 2 weeks in which you're wide open, in which the active participation in coaching, the active goal setting, and working on your goals is going to be the most effective. And so I would say once they're in that process, then you can kind of put them on a rocket and send them towards achieving their goals.